Here's my top 10 favorite fighting manhwa. Starting at number 10 is Boss in School. Okay, Boss in School is a manhwa with brilliant fights that are extremely badass, and the protagonist is definitely along that realm. Personally though, it doesn't quite land as well for me. The art style is quite weak when you compare it to the other things on this list, but there's something about the viscerality of the fights in this series that a lot of people tend to go towards, so I am putting it here at number 10, but I will say for me the other 9 are way up there comparably. At number 9 we have Devil Returns to School Days. This manhwa is not about the anime School Days from years ago. It's actually about a character that was bullied to the point of being in a coma, and in all his time in that coma, he thinks and he plots and he dreams of revenge on those that did this stuff to him. And he gets a chance to go back in time, basically, to his time in school, just as the bullying was about to start. And when I say the bully beatdowns are brutal and insane in this manhwa, they truly are. But the thing that's really interesting about this manhwa is it's not just about beating them back down or getting revenge a little bit. He wants to ruin their lives for the future. So there's a lot of plotting, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's a little over the top, and it's only at number 9 here because the manhwa is still very early on. And we know for manhwa fans, things tend to drop off quite a bit and tend to be not that great later on when they have a great premise, great first few chapters, and sometimes just fall off a cliff. So this is my number 9 for now. We'll see where it goes. At number 8 is Study Group. Okay, Study Group is really loved in this space, but for me, I don't know, I never quite clicked with the characters that much, but the concept of Study Group is a pretty cool one. You have this tutor professor that ends up being a full-fledged teacher later on. She's basically I'll say the joining point of these kids, and you have the main guy character that was this obsessed with studying protagonist. There's a slight twist on one of the things he was obsessed with studying that makes him an amazing combatant. I won't break that specific for you, but there's some really good fights in this series and full-fledged beatdowns that occur, but there is certainly a fair bit of slice of life elements to the series as well. That being said, it's a lot of fun. I find the female protagonist okay. I find her a little annoying sometimes, but I think I'm just being picky and nitpicky for no reason. But yeah, give me your thoughts down below on why I'm wrong for putting it so low on this list. At number 7 is completely different, is Manager Kim. So Manager Kim technically doesn't really take place in school as much as it's a story that starts with a father showing up for his daughter that was being, that basically fought against a bully, and now she's in trouble because the bully's parents happen to be really important corporate leaders. The thing about this series is this is the series taken in manhwa form. The daughter gets kidnapped, and the father is basically an ex-military guy and goes on a rampage to get his daughter back. It is brutal, insane, and exceedingly fast-paced. Like, it is non-stop. Manager Kim is also the same Manager Kim as from the series Lookism. If you've seen, you kind of see this character at one point. He's the same one, but it doesn't cross really more than that with the series Lookism that you will be seeing on this list in a few minutes. The thing I will say about the series is I think it should have ended already. Manager Kim had a very simple premise, and there was a great chance at one point to just kind of close the series off with a really nice point, but they've kind of kept it going longer than I feel they should have. This is a problem with manhwa in general, I think. In a lot of cases, they should just be like, great, that was an awesome series, there's 50 chapters of it, let's close it there, but sometimes there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. At number 6 is Weak Hero. Weak Hero is a great fighting manhwa, and it gives you a lot of that satisfaction of seeing the weak-looking protagonist be this kind of badass. I don't even want to call him a badass character because he really doesn't look badass, and he doesn't even act badass. It's just that he has some great skill sets and abilities that allow him to fight back against bullies, and what's great about this series is just the interactions that occur in it. The slice of life nature of it is great, like, to go with the fights, because the bullies are so over the top in regards to like their and this is often the case in Korean manhwa. Whenever there's bullies, they're like there's no nuance, there's no gray zone. These are like purely evil people. Only in Lookism do I think there's actually good nuance sometimes to the bullies, where there's bullies that become kind of like, yeah, okay, I kind of did wrong and I'm not that kind of guy anymore. but generally they're black and white, and seeing the beatdowns in this one, very satisfying. At number 5, we have Guard Pass. Guard Pass starts off in kind of one of the most compelling couple of chapters to root for a protagonist ever. You see this basically obese protagonist with his friend, a girl that he's friends with, that they kind of like meet each other every day, they walk together. There might be a little bit of something there, maybe a romantic like relation there potentially. And she's like this martial artist, like fairly skilled for her age, and he's got a couple little punches because he's a big guy. And in defending him from being bullied, she ends up being met after school and ends up in the hospital, in like either in a coma or life support basically. And the protagonist goes kind of nuts. He wants revenge on those that did that to her, but he also knows that he doesn't have the skills. So when he tries to get revenge, it kind of just doesn't work out for him. He gets a chance to learn martial arts. And what's great about this series, and I really appreciate it, is they're not, other than his transformation that goes from fat slob to ripped guy, which he's still a big guy, but he's like, yeah, okay, sure, 3 months. I think it's 3 months. He goes from that to that, and what I love is that their skill in martial arts, they're not pretending he's a master after the little bit of martial arts he's done. They know that he's not, and he's doing the best he can with what he learns, and they're really good at calling out how the martial art works. And I think that's one of the things this series does really well. At number 4, we have God of Blackfield. God of Blackfield steals a mercenary from the French Legion, getting basically betrayed on the front lines and sent reincarnated in another body somewhere else in the world. But the thing that's interesting in this one, it's not just him that's reincarnated. Actually, other people from his group that got betrayed end up being reincarnated. And that's not something you see that commonly in these manhwa. So as he's reincarnated to this Korean boy that was actually trying to end his life, he goes into school, bully beatdowns, you know, the regular stuff you see. They finish that pretty quickly, and it turns into a story more about him figuring out where he is, but mostly about getting revenge or justice on the people that were behind his death, like behind him as a French Legion mercenary's death. So as he gets that revenge, the story continues on, and it's a fun one because this time he uses guns, he uses knives, he's not afraid to overpower people or even 2v1 people if need be. Normally he's a one-man army, obviously, but he does still team up with other people when he needs it, and I find that that's a lot of fun. At number 3, we have Lookism. I know, it's not my number 1. Okay, so Lookism, I just binged Lookism to catch up on the manhwa because I have been a delinquent when it comes to this manhwa for a long time. And I will say, it's still not my favorite thing out there. I respect what it does. I think the relationships between characters are top-notch. In particular, I really enjoy the fact that the story in a lot of ways is about a protagonist that is not a good-looking character, that is like a fat, bullied individual that is having to come to terms with who he is as a person, and that that's not his defining feature, and that even though he wakes up every day in this really handsome Korean body that he gets to live with, it doesn't take the fears away. Like there's this scene that happens fairly early on, and I think it's a great representation of some of the stuff that happens in the series. There's a moment where the bully that has tormented him, the direct bully that has tormented him the most, he could get his revenge on him right in that moment, but the fear grips him. The fear of the man that made his life miserable. Even though he has the skills, he has the abilities, the body, everything he needs to make it happen, but he can't make it happen because the fear is still there, even though the body is there. And it speaks to, like, you have to overcome things, and it's not just about your appearance or things like that. And the story is just really good at interconnecting things. For me, it's just that these other two, there's something about them that just jived more with me. And one of them you're going to completely disagree with, but I don't know why. It just totally worked. It felt very real to me. But that being said, the fights later on in Lookism become insane and amazing to watch. Great ensemble cast. I'm not crazy generally about series that have too many characters, and there's a lot of characters in Lookism, and that might be one of the things that made me kind of lose interest a little bit. It's the same thing that happens to me during Tower of God, but that being said, it's just not my thing. At number 2, we have How to Fight / Viral Hit. The reason How to Fight works so well for me is it's so believable. The idea that you're making these viral videos of fighting at school is not very hard to believe. Like, obviously there's terms of service that would make things like that difficult in some cases, but imagine just school life where people have a chance at fame. Like, hey, my video's got 1 million views, I'm gonna go fight someone even stronger. Even if I get punched, I'm gonna just get more more views. And it just creates an interesting dynamic and an interesting push forward for the main character and the people around him to continue challenging people. The fact that that's the case means this series continues to be interesting as I continue to read it. And the character interactions and relationships are honestly pretty great. I really enjoy this series. I don't think it has the same depth as Lookism does, but there's also some things in Lookism, the way they portray bullying, that I had a lot of trouble with, and the art style I had a lot of trouble with as well for a long time. But yeah. At number 1, we have Mercenary Enrollment. Okay, Mercenary Enrollment it's Save the Character, the Simulation. Basically, it is a story about a protagonist that was in a plane crash years ago. He ends up in a situation where he becomes a child soldier, a mercenary. He becomes the best, like the best of the best. He's unbeatable. He ends up finding his way back to his family as a teenager in South Korea, where he has a sister and a grandparent that are there for him. And honestly, the reason this manhwa is so good are those 2 other characters. His relationship with his friends, as well as his grandfather and his sister, just humanize him so much, considering he has ended so many lives. It is insane. And he continues to end them during the series as well, because people keep kidnapping his family members, his friends. Like, they haven't kidnapped his dog yet, but like we're at this point where there's always someone new to kidnap. But the series manages to humanize a protagonist in such an interesting way, where just seeing him smile is like such a deep thing considering the character. It's a lot of fun as a manhwa, and while I do find it a little repetitive on that story point, I can't believe it's remained this interesting for this long, because we knew this would be kind of the dynamic of it, and for some reason that still works for this series. If you've enjoyed these manhwa in general, please leave a comment down below on what else you'd like to see me cover on this channel. Like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon.